5 school children drowned this week following devastating flash floods in northern KwaZulu-Natal. On Wednesday, 3 schoolgirls in Umlalazi were swept away while trying to save another pupil. 2 more children died in similar conditions in Mandeni yesterday. Our reporter Dasen Thathiah is there and joins us now. Thank you so much for coming through for us. Dasen, tell us about the circumstances in which these drownings occurred, particularly where you are in Mandeni.
Well, Tulas, 2 very tragic incidents here, like you mentioned in Umlalazi, where we were yesterday, and here in Mandeni as well. There are similarities between these 2 incidents because you've got a case where young children, in this case in Mandeni, got into the water behind me and got into difficulty there. And in fact, during the course of a rescue, which is very similar to the Umlalazi case as well, you know, there was a pupil there trying to rescue his peers during that case. That's when the drownings occurred. And Tulas, let me just show you where this happened. Look, the rain has stopped here at the moment, so it's not as full as it was when these drownings took place yesterday. This is where little Luyanda and Smanga Sibia drowned. Luyanda was only 8 years old and Smanga was 10 years old. The way we understand it, Tulas, is that Luyanda crossed a river from their homestead, came out here and was fascinated by the water that had risen to quite a high level. You'll see if Kaniso will just show you that there is a bit of the remains of this, I could call it a bank, I guess, after it's been excavated. And the water had risen quite high here, and we understand that Luyanda was quite fascinated. She got into the water and wanted to swim, and initially Smanga then tried to save her, but he wasn't fortunate enough to do that. And a third child also then tried to get in to help the both of them. But he was lucky enough to survive, but the other 2, unfortunately, weren't that lucky. Now, their home is just over to the other side, Tulas. I'll show you that now in a second. It's across the way here to my left. And the way we, or at least after the interviews with the family, we spoke to the Sibia family earlier, we know that one of the relatives heard the screams across the river to us, and he then realized that the children may be in difficulty and tried to make his way here to help them out. But by the time he got here, there were some closer neighbors that had come to this quarry. And unfortunately, by that time, the children had passed away. So we spoke to the family, and they are quite shattered over what's happened. And they're now saying that after burying these 2 children in the next week or so, it would bring the total to 5 family members that they've had to bury just within the last 2 or 3 months. 3 other relatives passed away from natural causes earlier this year as well.
An absolutely horrible story, Dasen. What are the authorities saying in KwaZulu-Natal, particularly around the issue of heeding warnings about the weather, particularly in areas that are prone to flash flooding?
Well, the Cooperative Governance Department in particular has said that people need to stay away in circumstances like this and not leave their homes, especially when there's flash flooding. But Tulas, you would understand that that's not always practical because, especially in rural areas, you know that bridges and these makeshift crossings are quite a necessary evil for residents, and they have to use these facilities to get from one place to the other, whether it's to get into the town or whether it's to get to relatives' homes, for example. So it's not always a practical solution. But here, Tulas, is a slightly different problem. You know, we always hear about children crossing low-lying bridges or people falling over them and flooding in rivers and that causing drownings. But the other issue in this area, in Mandeni, is the issue of this quarry itself. We spoke to the municipality earlier, and they were saying to us that this is one of their concerns, and it has been one of their concerns. The issue of, for example, construction companies using areas like this and excavating, leaving a quarry like this behind. Now, that negotiation, according to the municipality, happens between those companies and the traditional council in the area. And if you look even over here behind me while I'm talking to you, Tulas, there's also another little hole here. And as you can imagine, this would also fill up during heavy rains. And just look at how close it is to the homes at the back here, Tulas. And children then see this and see it as a recreational facility, as a pool even. So the municipality now wants to intervene there and talk and meet the traditional council and find out about these arrangements that take place, just to find a way to either prevent public access to these areas or stop the activity altogether, or at least try to make it a safer practice.
All right, thank you so much for those details there, Dasen Thathiah. An utterly distressing story that is playing itself out there in KwaZulu-Natal.